Hi. I still get anxiety over doing a video in front of people, but I'm going to try. This is a little bit of a message straight from my heart. I just returned from Charlotte from the Green Compass Summit, and I've never attended anything like that before. I've never been to a convention for direct sales. I've never been more impressed, more motivated, more humbled, totally excited about Green Compass, the people that are at the top of this, their humility, their desire to help people. It was so much fun. And I just came back even more excited about sharing Green Compass with everyone around me. So I just wanted to say there was one moment that really knocked me off my feet. And I was sitting at the bar at the hotel with a bunch of people, and these three darling girls came up to me from South Carolina and said, "Are you Penny?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." And they went on to say that I had said something in one of my previous videos that struck a chord with them, one about CBD and another about Crohn's disease. And I literally got tears in my eyes. For one, I thought only my mom and maybe some of my friends watch these silly little videos. But that I said something that was important or something that mattered to someone that maybe changed their life. One of them said they joined Green Compass because of that. One of them said they were able to help a friend with Crohn's, and that just really, really spoke to my heart because all I want to do is help people. And I was just amazed. One of them even said, "Oh, I loved it when you said." I couldn't even believe that they remembered what they heard. So that was just really powerful for me. And thank you to you cute South Carolina girls. I really appreciate your support and just the fact that you even came up and said something to me. But I'm not really comfortable talking in front of a crowd, and I'm not a salesman, which is hilarious because Valerie always says, even Penny can sell, and she's not a salesman. So we all know I'm not a salesman. I just love science, and I've had enough illness in my life to understand people that are in pain and the desire to get out of pain if medication's not able to help you do that. So if I can help people get out of pain, even make one person's life better, then I'm in. I don't have to sell, but I'm sure empowered to share my heart. And that's what I'm here to do tonight, which is really kind of personal tonight. But many of my friends know that I'm working on writing a book about my health and my history. It may never get published, but my heart is just overflowing with joy and amazement and love and wisdom that I hope to impart to anyone who's going through anything close to what I went through. But to give you a little sneak peek about my story and my book, is what I call the trifecta moment that occurred in my life about 12 years ago, I think, somewhere in there. But to keep it short, I was involved in a Sunday school class that involved sharing our testimony. And there's nothing more scary to me than having someone say, "Tell me your testimony, Penny," because I don't have one. I grew up in a great home, solid Jesus-loving home. I had loved high school, had lots of friends, loved college, had lots of friends. I didn't have anything major happen in my life that would make me say, "Oh, I have a testimony." I didn't make huge mistakes or anything like that. So I didn't think I had anything in my life worth sharing or talking about. So the thought of giving my testimony makes my hands sweaty and my knees weak because I don't feel like I have anything important to say. At the same time, cut to a Bible study that I was involved in by Beth Moore, and it was talking about challenging you to find your purpose in life. And at that point, I had three young boys under the age of 5, and I felt that my single purpose was to survive, just to keep my head above water and keep my children alive. I was in the trenches at that point. But I knew that as much as I loved being a mom, that I wanted my life to make a bigger mark somewhere else beyond being a mom. I know that being a mom is very important, and I'm raising 3 little humans, and I know that's important, but I did want to look outside my home and see what I could do to make a mark on this world. So the third part of the trifecta was that my husband and I were at church, and we heard a sermon that challenged the listeners to pray for challenges in order to strengthen our faith. And I think that's very, very scary to pray for challenges, because if you don't think that you get what you pray for, think again. In this period of 2 to 3 months, I stepped back and realized that my testimony, my story, my impact was actually my poor health, and how I recovered from my health, how I survived it, and just how I attacked it. The challenges that I thought I had were nothing compared to what I was about to experience. The gates of challenges that we were praying for opened almost immediately. My husband has a really stressful job, and his job stress just basically quadruples all at once. We got it from every direction. My health continued to spiral downward related to my Crohn's disease. I was trying to raise the kids with my husband working an hour away from home, and that made him nervous that I was alone with the kids, knowing how much pain I was in. And I was trying to be a mom in between excruciating pain. I would pull over and vomit on the side of the road and get back in, and 3 kids in car seats. I had blood transfusions, iron infusions, ER visits. I'd wait till the kids went to bed at night so I could go to the ER in the night so I wouldn't upset anybody's schedules. Hospital stays. John was always having to get off work. My family, my mother-in-law, father-in-law, my parents, everyone was just breaking their back covering for my family. And I hated every minute of that. So appreciative of them, but I really didn't want the world to stop for them to take care of us. But in hindsight, I have no idea how I survived that time. No idea. My children found me several times curled up in a ball on the floor, immobile from the pain. Lord, how I wish I'd known about CBD oil then. I would have guzzled it. But I decided in that trifecta moment that my purpose was to share my story. At that time, I started a blog about my health. People were always asking me what I did for different ways to eat, how I got out of pain. I found a lot of natural remedies at that time. And I chose to share my story more openly, with humor, and an effort to help anyone I could to help survive Crohn's disease. My health continued in a downward spiral to the point where I couldn't ignore. My 3rd doctor told me that I needed to get my stomach removed. And at that point, that scared me to death. I had no idea what that looked like on the other side, but I knew that all I wanted at that moment was to get my stomach out of my body. I was in so much pain. He told me that most people in my condition, this was at Mayo Clinic, showed up at his office in a wheelchair, and nobody looked like I did on the outside, which was a little bittersweet. I kind of took that as a challenge, but I also knew that I really was pretty sick, which I didn't often admit. So I documented my health, I documented my decisions, and the ultimate decision to go forward with the surgery in my blog so people could follow my story. This is where it gets just a little bit emotional for me. After my initial surgery to remove my stomach, I knew that something was wrong. I wasn't healing from that surgery like I should. I was so uncomfortable. I was very fearful. I was exhausted. I was tired of being sick. I was tired of trying to heal. I was tired of trying to keep my chin up. My family, like I said, was killing themselves, taking care of me. Our parents were on rotation, coming in and out of town and dropping their lives. And my husband, and all of this, was trying to work, actually pay for the bills. I was just so tearful and desperate. And I remember my mom coming into my room and I asked her through tears, when do I get to heal? I know that God can heal me. I know other people are finding healing. We've prayed for so long, like at that point, like 15 years of desperation. We both ended in a heap of tears with no answers, but we both still had big faith. And I know my mom, and I know that she probably just got to work on those prayer warriors immediately. We had no idea that things were about to get 100 times worse, more painful, more stressful, more challenging, but oh man, it did. I found out that I was septic, that I was covered up in infection. I had so much infection that the doctors told John it was medically impossible to get rid of it all. He was told to prepare for the worst. His mom still very solemnly tells me the story about John calling him in tears, telling him that he didn't know how to raise 3 boys alone. He didn't know what to do. She got in the car and drove down immediately. So I was completely unaware of that conversation at the time, but it was a pretty stressful time. I knew that things were tense by the way everybody was talking to me and talking about me. At that point, I was put on 10 different antibiotics. I had 5 drains in my belly. I had a wound vac that extended from my ribs to the bottom of my belly. And I had 3 times a week wound care visits, which was awful. I can't even I can't even put in the words the pain that came from that. And I was on a lot of pain medicine. So the pain medicine wasn't even covering what was going on when they were trying to clean out my abdominal wound. It was not a sight for sore eyes. In fact, I was sore eyes. It was bad. I lost 40 pounds. I was just a waif. So through a series of amazing events and answered prayers, visible and unexplainable miracles, I clearly survived. You'll have to read the book to hear all of those amazing things. But even when I left the hospital after having 6 major abdominal surgeries in 6 weeks, I was so weak. I had a long road ahead of me, but I was home, and that's what was important. I went home with a temporary ostomy, which eventually got removed, but that was no fun. I had 3 more additional abdominal surgeries over the next 2 years. I had surgical fistulas, I had hernia, massive hernia repair, but my path to recovery was still very long, and sometimes I still feel like I'm recovering, and I left the hospital 4 years ago, so I still struggle with my energy and my endurance. I also struggle with admitting when I need help. But the beauty of my story is that while it got way worse before it got better, not only was my body healed from the sepsis, my Crohn's is gone. Crohn's patients can't say that they're healed, but my Crohn's is inactive, and nobody ever gets to say that. So that's an enormous miracle. To tell you that I had an army of prayer warriors is not even covering it. I had legions. I still bump into people crazy that recognize my name and say, oh my gosh, you're on my prayer list. I prayed for you. And that also moves me to tears. Lots of things move me to tears, but just that someone took the time out of their day to say a prayer for me, a perfect stranger, is extremely humbling. But my minister told me, as he followed all my stories, that my story needs to be told, that those people who prayed for me need to know how their prayers were answered so that they can understand that prayers work too. So when you're on the receiving end of that much prayer and incredible healing, your life is totally changed forever. I have no hesitation telling people about what happened to me. I have no hesitation telling people the faith that I have that healed me and how my prayers were answered for my body. Like, God cared about me, and I was healed. I only thought that I didn't have a testimony or a story to tell, but without a doubt, God turned my lemons into lemonade, and he gave me those challenges that we prayed for. He gave me a purpose that I was looking for and the testimony that I thought I didn't have. And I'm so grateful to be alive and raising those 3 boys, and I will stand on a mountaintop and share my story if that is what I'm supposed to do. So I go back often and read the story of Job, and if you're familiar with Job, and oh, how he suffered, but by the end, because he remained faithful, he was healed, and he was richly rewarded beyond his wildest dreams. And for me, I know I was faithful, and I know that I'm healed, and I often wonder, what are my rich rewards? And for me, just knowing that my boys have a mom, that they're not walking in this life right now without me, that my marriage sustained such incredible stress and hard times, to me, that is a rich reward. Just to know that we made it through it, and we're all the more close through it all. But there's this little birdie in my head that keeps telling me that Green Compass is my sounding board, and it's my platform to share my story of healing and the continued benefits that I am receiving in healing after my giant mess that my body was, because I am continuing to get healing. Green Compass is not only going to allow me a place to tell my story, but it'll simultaneously allow those rich rewards to come into play. To be able to help people and share what I have loved and learned is so much fun, and to be paid generously for it is icing on the cake. And I'm an occupational therapist. I've mentioned that before. So my nature is to help people. I love my patients like they're my own family. And one thing I love more than anything is hearing their stories. They have stories of healing. They have huge stories like I did, where they got really sick and survived, or they were in the war, or they came over on the ship. I mean, I've heard amazing pieces of history told to me by my patients. But being in a service-oriented position on a daily basis, my job is to problem solve for ways to make my patients' life easier, so that they can be as independent as possible. And having heard so many of my old friends and new friends and my patients tell stories, I even have patients who use CBD oil, which is so fun when they say that. I want everyone I know to try it because I know that it works for everyone. People are finding relief from pain that medication was otherwise not providing. Had I known I could take CBD oil during those brutal wound care visits, I mean, I had Dilaudid right before they came, and that wasn't covering the pain. I would have sucked up that CBD oil any way I could. But another thing I learned that as I become more vulnerable and telling my story, people opened up to me and they told me their stories. And it's kind of like we were in the trenches together. And what I've learned is, do you know that everyone has something? Some people keep it on the down low. Some people are painfully private. Others, like me, have chosen to share it with the world. But what I know on this side of life is this just about everyone has something they're dealing with. And if they don't, a loved one is. So everyone has different pains. Everyone has different issues. Everyone has different ailments. And the amazing science behind CBD is that it helps almost all of them. You don't have to have a huge story like mine. You can have endometriosis. You can have headaches. You can have joint pain. But I start rambling when I get really excited. But my friends, think of your loved ones that need help. You don't have to have the big story, like I said. But what if your arthritis keeps you from walking? That's just life. How miserable that you can't walk because of your knee. Or if your headaches prevent you from going to work. Or if your anxiety or depression is affecting your relationships. Those are big moments, and that's someone's big story that they're trying to overcome. There is no doubt that CBD works. The world knows that. The media is selling it for us, but the key is finding a brand that you can trust, and it's finding a product that is safe. To me, that's vital. You have to find a product that is safe, that you know has CBD in it, and you know that it's not going to harm your body or your kids or whoever you're giving it to. I can confidently proclaim that Green Compass CBD is that for you and for me. Google it. There's nothing bad about Green Compass online. But be in touch with me if you want to try it, or if you're like my husband telling me, invest, invest. That's why opposites attract. I see it as an amazing way to help people feel better. He sees it as an investment opportunity, and we're both right. So thanks for listening tonight and hearing my story, hearing a little bit of my heart about why I'm doing this. And I just hope to hear from you soon. Thanks.